Holiday greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Street Musicians Christmas here. Hey, here. My name is Retson Noor. I like to classify myself as a Viking American, somebody from the north. The Vikings were here years ago, and there was a story on the news just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, that they found evidence of the Vikings in Newfoundland. Up in Canada, they found some objects which were definitely Viking objects because they claimed that indigenous people did not have these objects. And they dated that as 1,000 years from now at this time. So it was 1,000 years ago. They dated these items, classified as Viking items. So I feel that I'm descended from the Vikings. I'm actually Finnish, but Finland wasn't really established until 1918 as a country. And so Finland is not like a country that has a long history. They were part of that area there up north there, probably Russia and Sweden, all those Scandinavian countries. So I'm Finnish, but I like to call myself a Viking American. Now, I'm actually a musician, but I'm a retired establishment musician, and now I'm an alternative street musician. Now, when I talk about being an establishment musician, I'm referring to things that were pretty well established years ago. For example, I hold the sticks in a traditional way, which is the left hand is like this, and the right hand is like that. So that's why I can kind of hit my sticks together. The reason why they have the stick on the left hand like that is that they had a sling on the drum, and the drum would kind of lean over, so they would have the marching drum, they would have to have the left hand like that so that you could march with the drum when you're marching in a field or, a parade or something. Now, I've had a long experience as a musician. I learned drumming in 1962, and I was in elementary school at the time, and we had a drum pad. And the drum pad at that time, when I was learning to play drums, was a block of wood with a rubber pad on top. And we used that as our thing that we used to do drumming. And I had learned about reading music and everything. That was part of the school program. It was an after-school thing, so I went after school and learned to be playing drums, and I've been doing drumming ever since. So like I said, I'm classifying myself as an establishment musician, and the establishment to me means basically that you were part of the musical establishment. You went through, like I went through junior high music, high school band music, college music, and then I played with the American Legion Band in Fitchburg. It was post-10 American Legion Band, and I started off playing cymbals, so I played the cymbal, but then I started doing snare drums. So This is all parade stuff there. Like I enjoyed marching in the parades because I like marching band music, which you don't really hear much anymore. But I learned to play all kinds of marching band music. And the establishment music is basically you're reading music on a music stand like this, and it's concert band music or orchestra. I played in a marching band, concert band, orchestra. I did a jazz band in high school, and I was in the 1967 All-State Band, which is really difficult to get in. They have all the musicians in the state of Massachusetts. They have tryouts, and they go first. They become members of the district band, and then they become members of the all-state band. So it's kind of like a different level. So there's certain people in one area, they're in the district band, and then they have another tryout to become a member of the all-state band. So the all-state band is top of the line for musicians in high school. And so that was one of my honors there that I did that. And that was an establishment thing. I do like establishment music in one way because I played at both the Amherst College graduation and the Smith College reunion, and I got paid pretty well to do that. I guess like I don't know, about $125 at Amherst College, and that was maybe 4 years ago. And you'd go in for 8 o'clock, and you'd leave like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd have to stay through the Amherst College graduation. But I got $125, and I did a Smith College reunion, which was basically a marching thing. So we're marching, and the Smith College reunion people would get together every year, and the band was in the front, and the people in the reunion would be marching behind the band, and I did that for a number of years, and I got paid maybe like $125, but that was 2 Saturday sessions because they have a lot of graduates at Smith College, and they like to have a reunion all the time. I guess they seem to be the ones that are most enthusiastic about their reunions. Everybody dresses in white. They have some kind of dress code, and they have various outfits. Some wear white jeans, some wear white dresses, white shorts, but they have to be white, so it's kind of like an interesting reunion experience. So I did that for a number of years. I didn't mind doing that. Like I said, I got paid pretty well doing that. But generally speaking, most of the music that I've done was volunteer because there's not that much music. I did belong to the Musicians Union, and I played concerts at Zott Park in Chicopee, and I played at Look Park in Northampton, and we put on a band concert. Basically, you have to be reading the music, which is fine. I don't really like doing that. I classify myself now as an alternative street musician because I'm kind of an alternative-oriented person. And I have a music stand here, and somebody gave me a street musician's drum set. I said, oh, he made a drum set made out of like tin cans. He said, oh, you think you might use it? I said, well, I'm not quite sure. I don't really think that it might be too loud. It's like whacking on a cymbal, and it might, get people upset. But he had this. I could put this like right in my music stand if I wanted. I could go, I could hit those items. But as you can see, it's very loud, so I don't use these. But I like to demonstrate that if you're a drummer, you can use all kinds of stuff, tin cans. Now, another item that I have that can be used as a street musician. Let me put my my thing back here. I'm gonna set this up and I'll show you another street musician thing here. And we got bongo drums here. These, by the way, are professional bongo drums. They're very expensive, very heavy, very expensive. So hopefully it's not gonna fall over here, but anyway, you got bongo drums and you can kind of, you can do that, but that's also loud. I don't really like I said, I don't like to be getting people upset because, you know, I might be told by the police, they said, you need to leave, you're making too much noise. So I did bongo drums in college. We had a children's theater and I played a bongo drum at the beginning and I used my drumsticks. I like the drumsticks. Bongos, you're really supposed to use your hands, and I'm accustomed to using drumsticks. So I just wanted to demonstrate there's various methods for a drummer to do drumming as a street musician. What I'm doing now, I think is the best because it's easy to transport. I got my floor tile, and I can just put my, I guess this is, I think it's called Irish hand drum, but I'm not quite sure. But, you know, I just put that on there and that works. So that's basically a street musician thing there. So I think I kind of demonstrated. I got the bucket, the tile, the bongo drums. I think pretty much I don't know if you want to see the monkey's drum there. I don't really like to take the monkey. The monkey sits on the drum there. And I have this thing for people to make donations. They could throw money in there. And let me see if I can reach over here. Because I get sometimes money or food. So if they want to give me a grinder or something, I said, oh yeah, I'll take a grinder. You can get one of those grinders from Subway or something. And this actually has a little area compartment in the back. If they give me water or something, you know, sometimes they give me bottled water, I can put it right on the back there. So yeah, I like to consider myself a professional street musician. I got all the professional stuff here with the basket and the drums and the cymbal and everything. If you notice, I got the Beatles Sgt. Pepper on my sweatshirt here. And I'm kind of like part of that counterculture. So the counterculture kind of deviated from the establishment, and there was a lot of hostility at the time there, and the Beatles were like part of the mainstream of the counterculture. And so I was a big Beatle fan. They were kind of establishment when they first came out in 1964. They had suits and ties, and they tried to portray themselves as establishment, but before they did the establishment thing, they were playing music like in Germany, and they had leather jackets on, and they were kind of wanting to look like bikers and stuff, kind of ruffians. And then Brian Epstein was their manager, and he wanted to clean up their act, and so he put them in suits and ties, and that's what we kind of know from 1964, but they had a history of playing music like in Germany and out in England, Liverpool, and they put on some long shows, and they had quite a lot of fans. And by the time it came to 1964, everybody found out about the Beatles, and everybody got all excited because they were kind of like an alternative kind of a group there with the long hair. They didn't really look like establishment types. And once the Beatles came over, we had a bunch of the British invasion, meaning the British invasion of rock music. So you had quite a number of rock groups, such the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I liked the Dave Clark Five. There was the Animals. There was quite a number of these rock groups that played, and I was big on listening to a lot of that music there, so I kind of grew up with that music. The music that I played in high school, I didn't particularly like. We were doing like, hello, Dolly, well, hello, Dolly. Then I had to be playing along with it. It's okay, we played the song there at the football games and stuff. I got turned off with the marching thing because we were marching so much in high school, and we had to be marching in the rain and the snow and everything. I kind of didn't really like that because they'd still play football games even in the bad weather. So, if they played football, then the band would have to be playing there along with them. So we did a halftime show, and we did, different maneuvers and stuff like that. So I went through there. I went through that process. I've been there. I've done that. I do recommend for young people that they should consider joining a band if there is a band in their school, because when I was in high school, I had 3 interesting experiences that you wouldn't ordinarily have. Now, the band went over to the 1964 World's Fair in New York, so we went over there in 1964, and then we went to the Montreal World's Fair, and I think that was 1967, and then we went down to the Florida Festival of States Parade in St. Petersburg, Florida, and that meant that there was one band from every state, and they were marching in St. Petersburg. It was called the Festival of States Parade, and our band represented the state of Massachusetts. So it was pretty interesting because we had these experiences that you wouldn't ordinarily have if you weren't in the band, because we went off and went on trips and did things. The biggest thing about the Florida experience, because we went down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and then we went to the beach. We were hanging out at the beach and having a good time there. And what happened at that time that I was there, Martin Luther King got shot at the time I was down there in Florida there. And everybody was all freaked out, thinking that there were going to be riots and everything, and they wouldn't let us out of the hotel. They said, "Oh, you can't go out of the hotel there. Might be riots there." So we had kind of had that as an experience. So we did have a little chance to go to the beach and be over it in the St. Petersburg area there, shopping and stuff, but the Martin Luther King is something, when he got shot there, it's always something that I'll always remember, that I was in Florida at the time Martin Luther King got shot there. So that was one of my memories from high school. Now, like I said, I wasn't really too thrilled with marching in the parades and the football games and everything in high school, so I didn't want to do that when I went to UMass. I just did the concert band. I didn't want to do the marching band thing, so I did play in the concert band at UMass, and that was an interesting experience. No major problems there. And then I kind of went on. I played mainly with Fitchburg American Legion Band, and I came every 4th of July to march in the parade. So I always enjoyed going over there to play in the 4th of July parade. But I was also with the Northampton American Legion Band over here, and the director wanted me to play over here, so I said, well, I guess then it's easier for me to play in Northampton than it is to Fitchburg, so I gave up on the Fitchburg gig. So I played with the Northampton American Legion Band on the 4th of July. But the funny thing about that was that, we get paid to do that gig, so we we did play 2 or 3 years, and I guess they had a new person that was in charge of the 4th of July festivities, and he didn't want to pay the band the amount that we wanted, because these were all professional musicians. A lot of them are like music teachers and stuff. And the director said, well, we're not going to play in the parade anymore. You're not going to pay us what we're needing to get paid. And so I stopped playing. So if I had stayed in Fitchburg, I probably would have been going back there every year. So I didn't do any more 4th of July parades. I think the last 4th of July parade I did might have been 2002 or something like that. It was quite a while ago. So I didn't play for a number of years, but there was one group that I joined up with in the 80s, and that was a Civil War reenactment group. So I went and checked it out, and what it was fife and drum music. So I said, well, this looks kind of interesting. But we were required to buy Civil War uniforms because they wanted us to look like Civil War guys. So I had to go and purchase items. They were supposed to help me buy some of the equipment there, but I ended up spending money out of my own pocket. But the Civil War reenacting thing, that was interesting too. And I'm going to make a demonstration here on the music, because when I started that, it was 1982. I joined up with the group, and I was the only drummer in the group, and we went to these reenactments, and I was the only drummer in the reenactment, so I can kind of do my own thing. I said, well, I'll do my own thing like I do as a street musician. But then as time went on, more and more people joined up, and then they had these people that were Revolutionary War type of musicians that they played music like from the 1700s, which is very regimental kind of music. So I'm going to make a demonstration here what I did and the difference there. So this is what I was doing, a regular, like American Legion band type of street beat. Which is a 6/8 beat. And these Revolutionary War people, they were doing these regimental beats that were like from the 1700s. So they were using, instead of like I use a 5-stroke roll, that's a 5-stroke roll. That's 2 4 5 2 4 5 2 4. They were using a lot of 7-stroke rolls. So like 2 4 6 7 2 4 6 7. So they were going like. They were doing a little bit different style of music, so I didn't really fit in because I was doing more of a modern style. So it started to get to be a little bit complicated, because when we go to these Civil War reenactments, they'd put all the musicians together, no matter what their experience was. So I would be with like maybe some little kids that didn't know how to play, and then I'd have some of these Revolutionary War people, and everybody had different experiences, and they wanted us all together. We were at the, doing our Civil War thing, and they'd put us all together, and sometimes I have to show the little kids. I said, well, just play like on the snare drum, a bass drum beat, like. Because you're just playing on the beat, and you're not really interfering with the snare drummers. So I kind of was telling them, or what to do. I did teach drum lessons to one of the guys in my group, so that we had other drummers playing with us there. So I did give some drum lessons there when I was with the Civil War group. But I started giving some private lessons in the 70s. But I didn't really pursue that. It was, that you have to be driving to people's houses, and sometimes people would start and then they'd quit. I wasn't really that interested in doing the drum lesson thing there. I did it for, I think, a few years, I think like 72, 73, 74, 75, and then I kind of stopped. And then when I joined the Civil War group, I taught lessons again. And there was another guy in the group, because sometimes people have different perspectives. So there was one guy in the group, we were an infantry group, and he wanted to start his own group, so he started an artillery group, and I guess he spent something like $10,000 on a cannon or something. So he started his own group, so he was the 9th Mass, and we were the 10th Mass Regiment, which were real groups. They tried to base it on real stuff that happened during the Civil War, but he had his $10,000 cannon, so he'd go off and he'd sometimes go to some reenactments that we didn't go to, but they were wanting to do their own thing there. So we had people that, would come and go. I stayed with the group about 15 years, 1982 to 1997, I guess, something like that. The problem was that it's all volunteer stuff. I didn't get paid. Only like the guy in the artillery group, he said, well, I'll pay you if you show one of the guys here how to play drums. And I gave him drum lessons, and he played with the 9th Mass, but he quit. He didn't stay with the group, so I guess the guy got kind of mad. He paid for drum lessons, and the guy didn't want to do it anymore. So that those things happen, I guess. So anyway, so I did the Civil War thing. But then I started joining these other groups because we were just doing, like the old-time music, like a Yankee Doodle and all those songs from the Civil War period. And it was okay. I did the drumming, and they had the fifes, and we actually got together because I wanted to have the fifers do Christmas music, so I did Christmas music with them. So I said, well, let's practice some Christmas songs, and we'll go and collect money for the Salvation Army. So we did that for a couple of years. The thing I thought was kind of humorous about that, because we went to the Hampshire Mall to play music, and they said, oh, don't play any religious music over there at the Hampshire Mall. We don't want religious music. I said, well, Christmas is religious holiday, so we had to kind of stay away from songs that weren't really religious. But we did do some collections there, and we got our pictures in the newspaper. And I got my picture in the newspaper at least 3 times doing drumming for the Salvation Army. So the Salvation Army I considered to be more of an alternative music experience, because the Salvation Army is known for their bell ringers, and I said I wasn't really interested in ringing a bell. I wanted to do drumming, so they said, oh, okay. So I started drumming on the Civil War drum, which is a rope tension drum, which is, well, we got one under the monkey here. That's the Christmas monkey there. But there's ropes on the thing there, so it's a rope tension drum. That's the old-fashioned kind of drum. So I played the rope tension drum, and then I started adding more and more stuff to the thing. I had the cymbal, and then I had some tom-toms, and then I had a big boom box, a great big boom box there, and I'd be spending Christmas Day recording Christmas songs for the next year. So I had all kinds of cassettes with Christmas songs, and I play the Christmas songs on Christmas. The thing about that is that I used a drum and the tom-tom and the cymbals, and people were complaining it was too loud, so I got kicked out of all the supermarkets. I got kicked out of Hampshire Mall. I got kicked out of Thorne's Market. I think what happened in Northampton, because Thorne's Market is in Northampton, I played the drum there for the Salvation Army, and I guess everybody got all bent out of shape, and they said that no drumming in Northampton. You have to have a street musician permit. And it says on the back, no drumming in Northampton, because I was the first one in the 80s. I'd go over there and I'd be banging on the drum and the boombox was blasting away and you could hear it all over downtown Northampton. People were freaking out there. They said, what's going on here? I said, well, I'm collecting money for the Salvation Army, but I was an alternative kind of a guy, so I had the rock and roll music. So eventually I couldn't do that anymore because they said it was too loud and I couldn't play at some of the places. So I switched and I had percussion instruments instead. So I had, like a bell tree and triangle and stuff, and I was just kind of hitting those things. I actually have that on a YouTube if it's still there. That would be www.youtube.com/Ron Nestor, Nester. They have some of my stuff that I shot like maybe 15 years ago. I was doing Salvation Army and I set up the camera and I showed that I was doing that. But anyway, people complain about that too. They said, oh, you're too loud there, you can't do that anymore. So I had to switch. So I bought some chimes. I had some chimes there, and at first I was just I wasn't doing any songs. I was just just making sounds, and somebody said, why don't you play some Christmas songs or something? So I learned 1 or 2 Christmas songs on the chimes there, and I did put that on the YouTube too. I don't know if it's still on there or not because I haven't really checked all those things I put on 10 or 15 years ago, but I did put that on. I showed that I played the chimes because I was kind of finishing up. That was 25 years I did the Salvation Army. I don't know what happened with the Salvation Army because the Salvation Army started in Northampton, the service center, not the thrift shop that they gave people money like for food and stuff. I think it started in 1984 or 1985 when I started, and they closed shop in Northampton. I think it was something like soon after I quit. I quit in 2012. And I think they closed the office in Northampton a year or 2 later. I don't know what the problem was. Maybe the rent was too high for the office or something. And you don't really see Salvation Army around here like you used to see Salvation Army. You'd see people ringing a bell all the time. They'd start right around Thanksgiving and go until Christmas. Sometimes they started the first week in November. And sometimes they went until New Year's. It was various times and various years, but all of a sudden they kind of packed up and left the area, so you don't really see the Salvation Army anymore. So I tell people that I retired from the Salvation Army and I went into business for myself. So I started my own music thing. So the Salvation Army was basically only in the months of November and December. And I did that, like I said, for 25 years, and I kind of learned to be outside in the cold, so I know how to be playing outside as a drummer there because I already had that experience. So like I have, you have the wool socks. It's best to have 2 pairs of socks. I have the regular underwear, the thermal underwear, and the one that I have now is the Cabela's, which is top of the line. It's kind of like a fleecy long underwear. That's top of the line long underwear, and it's nice and warm. Plus the pants that I have has lining in it, so I actually have a pair of pants that has lining, so I won't get cold. And then I have a regular undershirt. I have a thermal undershirt. I have a turtleneck. I have a sweatshirt, and I have 2 jackets on. So I have one jacket is like an extra large, like this is extra large, and then I have a 2XL on top of this, so I know how to dress in the cold weather there, so I can be standing, or well, I'm sitting now, sitting outside for 3, 4, 5 hours in the freezing cold there. I played sometimes when it was like 15 degrees outside there. But I knew how to deal with the cold weather. Most of the street musicians, and this is Massachusetts, they don't really play much during the cold weather. I don't know what it's like in Boston, but around here you do have some street musicians, but I don't know if they want to be out in the cold. I'm kind of playing all year round in the cold and in the hot weather, so I'm kind of like a semi-professional street musician now, I guess, because it's not like a full-time job. It's just that I get extra money as a street musician, and it's generally, it doesn't pay that much. I get between $2 and $10 an hour. And if I play during the holiday season, I'll make more money during the holiday season. But, you know, you play for an hour, you only get $2, you get kind of frustrated. So the best time to play is just on the weekends when people are out shopping. I've played in Amherst, Hadley, and Northampton. Northampton I consider to be the worst place for several reasons. First, you need to pay now $25 to get a street musician's permit. So you have to pay $25. And then you set up, and the police may tell you to move. So I think I played like a few years ago. I set up over in Northampton, and I set up over there near Thorns Market, and the police said, "Oh, somebody's complaining, you'll have to move." So I moved up the street, and I played over there for a while. Then somebody came from upstairs. They said, "Oh, you're making too much noise, you have to move." So I had to move across the street. So I moved across the street there, and there's a lot of homeless people over there too. They're sitting on the sidewalk asking for money too. So everybody's asking for money. One time I was playing over there in Northampton, and some homeless guy stopped somebody right in front of me asking for money or something, for cigarettes or something. So I got kind of fed up with Northampton, so I consider Northampton probably the worst place to play. But it's a little loud, so I don't want to get people complaining that, "Oh, there's some guy, he's drumming, he's making too much noise." So I don't really like to use a bucket. And Hadley is the best place to play because you have a lot of people shopping over there. You have all the stores like the Walmart and the Marshalls and the stores in between there, Old Navy, Bed Bath & Beyond, and I'm kind of over in that area there, and it seems to work out pretty good for me. Amherst was so-so. I set up in Amherst near the post office, and then I moved across the street, and I started playing over there because the bus would stop there, and people would get off the bus, and they'd give me some money over there. What I didn't like about that was that I played over there by the church across the street from the post office, and I guess the priest at the church called the police complaining that I was playing out there. And the police told the priest, they said, "Well, I'm on public property, you know, I'm on the sidewalk. I wasn't on his property there." But I told the policeman, I said, "Oh, well, I'll just go across the street there." And I went across the street, but the priest was complaining that I was playing there near his church there, so I was getting a little annoyed about that. And after that, I guess I started playing in Hadley, and like I said, I think Hadley's probably the best place to play. Now there's somebody that plays violin over there. I noticed some lady doing a violin, so she started playing. So I said, I guess I'm gonna head over to Boston. I put all my stuff, and the less you have, the easier it is to transport. That's why I don't want to have a lot of stuff with me, because I put most of my stuff in the trunk, and I just had to carry the cymbal stand there. So I had the trunk and the cymbal stand. I put everything fit inside the trunk, and I hopped on a Peter Pan bus, and I went over to Boston. The thing was that the Peter Pan bus brought me to the South Station. So I got over to Boston, and I went outside, and I looked around. There was all office buildings. I said, "What is this?" Because I didn't really know anything about Boston. So there's office buildings here, and I had to walk up the street there, and they had the food court, like a bunch of food trucks were around in a circle there, and all the people from the offices would go to the food court there. So I set up over there. I played for a couple of hours, and that was it. I didn't really make that much money. I think I made like $10 or something. So they were in a rush. They come and get their food, and then they had to rush back to the office. They didn't want to be giving me any money, so I said, well, that was a waste of time. So that was kind of a bad experience. I wouldn't mind going to Boston if I get, a lot of money over there, but I would have to be leaving like at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't be able to get back until 7 o'clock at night, so that's like an all-day affair, so I'm not too sure if I want to do that. Before me, there was a guy that used to make programs here. His name was Benny Johnson, and he called himself the Motown Man, and he played a bucket. I got a bucket. He played a bucket, and he sang a Motown song. So I'm going to demonstrate, since I got the bucket in my hand, because the bucket has a different sound from what I play. Let me show you what I'm playing here on here. I'll just turn this around. I'll show you here. I have a hand drum, but I don't have it as a drum because it doesn't sound very good. So I just put it on the floor tile, and the reason why I like that is that I can use this as like a rim shot, so I could go. So I could hit that and make it sound like a rim shot. So I have tried that method. Sometimes I use the drum, sometimes I don't. It's like I said, it's a little noisy, and I like the floor tile. And well, I'll do the bucket now, and then I'll show you what I got here. So the bucket is a different sound here, so I'll play the bucket. It's a pretty good sound, but the Motown Man did use a bucket, but he was singing Motown songs. That's why he called himself the Motown Man. He was probably the most famous street musician in this area here. Now, he belonged to a group. It was a somewhat famous group. It was called the Johnson Brothers, and he was telling me about the Johnson Brothers. They traveled around on the Chitling circuit back in the 60s, where the blacks would be traveling around, and they do performances. And Benny Johnson told me, oh, he was on the same bill with Jimi Hendrix. I said, oh, you were with Jimi Hendrix. Oh, that's pretty interesting. And I guess, all these musicians, they were black musicians, and they kind of traveled around. So he did have contact with a lot of those musicians from that time period. So I was kind of impressed with the idea that, he was playing, and it was called the Johnson Brothers. He was the drummer, and there's Jimmy Johnson was a guitar player. He lives around in this area here, and I guess the other brothers, and they traveled around and did music. I don't know why they ended up in this area. I guess maybe they had some relatives or something over here. So we're going to take a break now, and we'll set up, and we'll have the other musician come over here, and he's going to do his thing. I kind of gave you some information about myself. I was kind of rambling there, but we do have a street musician over here. He's going to be my guest. I'm going to have him say your name.
Melody. That's my stage name.
Okay, he's going to use that as a stage name. So what I found interesting, because I just played in Amherst, Hadley, and Northampton, but you've played in a lot of other different places. Why don't you mention some of the places that you played in now?
Yeah. I started doing this way back in 2006, actually, was my first foray into street performance and what's called busking, which is the same thing, just another term for it. So my original stomping grounds was Rhode Island, particularly the Providence area. I did not live there, but I lived about 20 minutes south of it, in a little town called East Greenwich. So I would journey up there frequently throughout the week, and I would play around the Providence area, different locations throughout the city, downtown, up near Brown University, up on Thayer Street up there, and other locations around there, down by Johnson and Wales and places like that. And so I found my niche there, and got to know some people, and developed a certain presence there and a certain reputation, and built up something of an audience there, I think, and people got to know me and got to know my music and stuff like that. And that went on for roughly 10 years, I think. Around 2014, I ended up moving again, and I was living with my mom at the time, and we ended up moving down to North Carolina after that. And so I was living there for a few years, and I started doing the same thing there, just playing around the Charlotte area, actually, which is the major city that was close to me anyway. I was in that part of the state there. So it was sort of the same deal. I lived outside the city, so I would commute into the city each day, and I would also play various shopping centers that weren't in Charlotte, but were closer to where I lived. There was a plaza with a Starbucks and a lot of shopping centers there that I would do my street performance at, various parks and areas, plazas and places like that, in that area. So I did that there for roughly 3 years, I think it was. And then we ended up moving again. You can see there's a pattern developing here. But we ended up coming back up north after that. And we actually settled back in Massachusetts, which is where I'm originally from. I grew up in Hadley, actually. That's where I was raised. And I spent the first approximately 21 years of my life there before, actually I moved to Boston at one point, but that's another story. So when I came back to this area, it was about 2017, I think it was. And I did the same thing when I got back here. I originally started in Amherst. I would play on the sidewalk in Amherst, and then I would go over to Northampton sometimes and do the same thing there, play on the sidewalks there, and do the street performance in those locations. And I hadn't really thought about Hadley, actually, because I didn't know that that was really an option. I didn't know that anybody really played there until I met this young man here, this gentleman to my right here. We just sort of crossed paths one day because I was walking around the shopping center there, and I heard something, and it sounded like drums, and I walked over to him, and I saw him playing, and we introduced ourselves, and the rest is history, I think, because we've known each other now for a few years, I think. And we got to know each other, and he said, yeah, this is a good place to do it, and I do well here, and you're welcome to share the spot with me. So that's sort of where it went after that.
Now, I had a question because you mentioned Boston, and I met somebody years ago because I tried out being a street musician in Northampton around 2000 before I got a second part-time job at Wendy's, and I worked at Wendy's from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. 6 nights a week. So I worked quite a lot at Wendy's, and I couldn't do any music because I earned enough money at Wendy's, but before I started working at Wendy's, I played as a street musician trying it out in Northampton, and some guy came over to talk to me. He said, "Oh, I'm a street musician in Boston. I don't do anything else. I'm just a street musician. I don't have any other job." And I was quite surprised because I said, well, I have a bunch of part-time jobs, but he was a street musician. So I said, well, that's kind of interesting. But I was wondering about your Boston experience.
It's funny you mentioned that actually, because I actually was sort of involved in the quote-unquote street music scene. It was more of a subway scene there, actually. This was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I actually got to know some of the people that were doing it at that time, and that's actually where I got the idea to do it, and sort of the impetus to follow that path and to explore that and get into it and stuff like that. And I got to know a few of the people that were doing it, and actually I was in school actually at the time. I was in art school at the time, and I was taking a filmmaking course. And so I had a project that I was working on, and it was an independent film project, and so we had to come up with an idea for the project, and my idea was to film some of the local street music performers from Boston, and that was actually how I sort of got into it, and was introduced to some of these people and developed some friendships there and got to know them, and actually filmed some of them. And I still have the footage. It just was never, the film was never completed. I kind of dropped out of school after that for a while, so it just didn't really come to fruition at any point, and I stopped working on it. But I do still have the footage, and at some point I do plan on putting something together, because I think it's pretty good, and it sort of captured a unique period in time, because this was pre 9/11, when things were very different in terms of the rules and you know, how society was at that point in time. I think it was different.
Okay, well, we have kind of limited time, so we're going to have you do a few songs here. When I saw you playing in Hadley, you were singing the Bob Dylan song, Knock, Knock, Knocking on
Heaven's Door. Yeah.
Heaven's Door there.
And I actually did that yesterday, and I got a pretty big tip for it too. So.
Yeah, that could be classified as a Christmas song. So you want to try that song?
No.
You don't want to do that?
No.
It's not really a Christmas song.
No, it's a spiritual, I would call it.
Well, I'll let you go, because we want to get some of the music in here. So.
Okay, so here we go. This is Feliz Navidad. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año felicidad. Wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. Wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. Wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. The bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Espero a mi felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Espero a mi felicidad. Wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. Wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. Wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. The bottom of my heart. Now I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas. Now I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas. Now I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my Merry Christmas. Bottom of my Merry Christmas. Bottom of my heart. I want to do Little Drummer Boy.
I'm just gonna go.
All right.
I'm gonna keep going.
Okay. All right. Let me get myself set up here a little bit. Okay.
You notice a 9-stroke roll.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try to remember this. have a blessed New Year, and Godspeed.
Thank you.